Yep.
Hello guys, I'm Super Ron. Welcome back to the channel, and we're here again at Auto Shack, and this week we have got something new to the channel. We have got this 2014 Jaguar XK. So it's a 5-litre V8, and quite comically, everywhere around the engine is stamped Ford Motor Company. So I don't know if it's like a Mustang engine or something like that, but this one has come to us as a non-runner. The customer bought it as is, and he bought it as flood damaged. Apparently what's happened, it's sucked a load of water up and hydrolocked itself. So after some initial diagnostic, I got the camera down the bores just to have a look what they look like. And you can see on the V where the pistons were sitting in there, there was sediment in the bottom of each cylinder, and it's looking pretty rusty and grotty. We can't turn it over, it looks like it is sea solid. So my job today is to get this engine out. So that's the front end all off. Got the bumper over there. And now I can see I'm very much not surprised that this sucked in loads of water, because I've just found where the air boxes are. That is the air box and the air filter down that low. One that side, one that side, and the air intakes are up here, open. So if you go for a splash, goes up into there and down into the airbox, and then gets sucked up into the engine. Little bit of a design flaw there, Jaguar / Ford. So let's pop these air boxes off and see what it looks like in there. Not exactly ideal for serviceability either. Not sure how you're supposed to get to them in a normal service. So I got both the air boxes off. Bit of a weird setup, how the air intake comes in the top and goes all the way down to ground level through the filter and then back up, and they join for the throttle body. But looking inside the bottom here, it's not a good sign. You can see there's all mud, dirt in there, lots of sediment in the bottom. But the filters themselves, it's more like a cabin filter. The airbox doesn't separate, they just have this panel at the back, both sides, and that's where the air filter comes out. So let's see if we can get to that and see what it looks like inside. And there it is, sucked itself right through. So yeah, it's been full of dirt, underwater, and you can see in there, not what you want to see inside an airbox. Let's have a look in the other one. Same again, full of dirt and mud. Even still got a bit of moisture in there. So that's definitely what happened. Genuine filters though, which is nice to see. Not that they're a lot of good now. You can see it sucked it. Don't know if you can see that, but this whole thing is suctioned out, or it's pulling the water through. Not ideal. Well, that doesn't sound right, or look right.
Oh, we've got a leak.
Yep, I've definitely took some water up. You shouldn't have gone through that tunnel. I don't think you went through a tunnel, I think you went through a lake.
I can confirm water damage. And wow, I think we can pretty conclusively say this is a water damage problem. This last cylinder is still full of water now. And if you look down at all the others, it is horrendous. They've all been full of water. They've all gone rusty to the valve seats. And I reckon that's a big reason why I can't turn it over, because the valves are all jammed shut in there. That was just oily. Over here, that is a mess. Then our last one is still full of water right to the top. I've never seen anything like that before. So we have got a tiny bit of movement, but that is it. The plugs aren't in. I think that is game over. So I just had another thought. To get it separated from the gearbox, you have bolts in the back of the torque converter that you get from the starter motor hole, for which you take one out, rotate the engine round, take the next one out, rotate the engine round, take the next one out, and the torque converter then stays on the gearbox. But we can't rotate the engine, so I'm not sure how we're going to get to the torque converter bolts. We'll deal with that when we get to it. So I think we are now ready to pull this out.
That's a funny colour.
So I've got everything disconnected, everything folded in from the outside, so all that's going to stay with the engine is folded into the top, so all the ECU plugs, power steering, coolant pipes, vacuum pipes, they're all going to stay with it, and all the bits that are going to stay with the car are all on the outside, so that's good. And also what I've been doing is putting loads of WD-40 down the inlet tract where all those rusty valves were, and down the spark plug holes, getting into the bores, and with a bit of working we have managed to get the engine freed off. So now the engine just about turns over, which means we'll be able to get the torque converter bolts and get the torque converter off the flex plate, which is what we were worried about. So let's get it up in the air, get those torque converter bolts out, bell housing bolts off, and hopefully we can lift it out the front.
And it is out. So you might notice that the gearbox has come out as well. So we've got a completely empty tunnel, and that's because there wasn't a lot of clearance over the gearbox to get the loom out. I'll show you on the other one, because the gearbox loom is part of the engine loom and it goes on top of the gearbox and you can't get to it. And it's only the prop that we needed to disconnect. All the gear linkage is electronic, so undid the prop and it all came out together, which is much easier in the long run. So we can get that swapped over out of the car. But the loom just runs so tight you can't get to it. So now we've got our new engine.
And there's the gearbox all off. As you can see, it made a bit of a battle for us. Just would not come off the dowels around the bell housing. We've got that age-old problem of steel and aluminium not being friends, and it's just corroded on the dowel. But we got it all off. Still quite funny. Ford Motor Company everywhere. So now I've just been comparing the two engines. This one must be out of a slightly different model or different year, because some of the pipes were different. So I've took the aircon pipes and the power steering pipes and I'll transfer them over. We managed to keep the gearbox sealed because the oil cooler for the gearbox is a charge cooler. So it has water passing through it. So we didn't need to take off any of the gearbox oil lines. So that's all intact, ready to go on. So we'll get these pipes onto this one and then we've got to work out how to pick this one up. So it's quite easy with this one, with the inlet off. We could just bolt round. But there doesn't seem to be any lifting eyes on this complete engine. So we'll work that out, get the gearbox on this one and get it back in the hole. And as always, I was Mr. Organised. I always have my nuts and bolts all set out. But for an engine out job, I was expecting quite a bit more. So I gave myself plenty of room, but this is all it required. It's quite a modular engine. So it should be nice and easy to go back in.
And there's the torque converter bolts all torqued up. And then put his little cover back on. Nice and tidy. So here we are, all assembled. We're all modular again, we're all in one piece. Got all the bits swapped over. Got this troublesome loom that made us take the gearbox out over the top. As you can see, you wouldn't have got that out in the car. And that's for the lambdas and the speed sensors. I did a service on it as well, so changed all the spark plugs while it was out, be a bit easier. Here's all the bits we had to swap over, the difference, and the plugs. So we're just about all ready to go back in. And a bit of a comparison, here is a classic Mini engine and gearbox all together, compared to this monster. So it's time to go back in.
We are all back together, everything's connected up. I had to swap quite a few bits off the front, the air intake system, off the original. Lots of little bits, like these bungs were a bracket on this one. But looking at this, it says this engine is a 2009 to 2011. And this is a 2014 car, so the engine's the same, just some of the ancillaries like we had to swap off. So the last bit I need to put in is the air boxes. Let's have another look at these filters, because that is what it's supposed to look like. Not ideal. So we'll get them in because they've got the airflow meters on. And before I put the front on, I just want to get it started up because this engine is from a breaker. So there's no telling why it was removed. Just before we go any further, I want to hear it run for 30 seconds. And then we can put all the front end off and it will be done. So let's get these airboxes on and start it up. So we're inside a legit first start. We'll just put the battery pack on. We've got a Jaguar. The dash isn't going to be happy because everything's unplugged. But let's see. Ooh, 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 ooh. Got lights. Everything's making noises. Let's go for it. Ah, anticlimax. Let's adjust the battery pack. And we have 2 volts. That's why we haven't got a lot of cranking. Let's give this a little charge and try again. So even with a fully charged battery and a jump pack, it was still just clicking the solenoid. So it wasn't a voltage battery problem. So I checked the voltage at the starter itself and we had 0 volts on the main power wire. So I traced that all the way back and it turns out we've got a massive fuse box here for the main power cables. And this is the one for the starter. A huge 400 amp fuse labelled Ford, which has blown, so we had no volts to the starter. So let's get a new one of these and try again. 400 amp blown, good effort. I reckon what's happened, when the engine was full of water, he tried to start it again, locked up, and that was it. Pop.
27.
Yeah. Right, new fuse. Let's try again. Well, at least we know it runs now, so we can carry on.
And we are all fluided up, all the rads are on, power steering's on, aircon's all on, so now we can run it up properly and get this finished off. So let's see what it sounds like.
And here it is, all cleaned up. Lee's just got the front end on, all cleaned up, ready for its MOT. The only thing we spotted that it's going to need for the MOT was tyres. So we got our tyre boy in. It's got a new set of boots all round. What he did find, it had a front wheel on the back and a back wheel on the front, but it still had the correct front and rear size tyres. So it had a 9 with a wide tyre on, had a 10 with a narrow tyre on. So we've had all them swapped around as well. And it is all ready for MOT. Engine's all running perfect. Looks good in there. So it is ready to roll. Right, it's MOT time. Everything's looking good. Got my seatbelt on and we'll be good to go. So that's going to wrap up this episode. This one's all done, MOT'd and fresh and ready for the road. So we can get this one back to the owner for him to enjoy it for a bit longer. It's a really nice car, really well spec'd, and it drives so smoothly. The job did escalate when we were thinking about rebuilding this engine, but luckily we got a complete unit, and as you saw it come out all modular. Like the other big V8s we do, the RS4s and the RS6s, they're made to come out because you need to take them out to do so much on the car. They're all self-contained, so a few pipes, a few connectors, and they all come out as one, which made our job a lot easier. There was a bit of variation between the two engines, and out of a different model we had to change some of the coolant pipes and some of the intake pipes, but all in all it was a nice easy job. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you tune in next time, because there's no telling what we have in here. Sometimes it's show cars, sometimes it's old cars, sometimes it's a Jaguar. But until next time, make sure you have fun.